So essentially it's 1, and then it comes down, breaks into 3, which is the primary colors, and it breaks into 10 million.
Load a bunch of paintings in a truck and drive them down to Irvine for those guys to look at under very short notice.
I had filled my entire studio with sand because I was working with sand and light.
Had no mortar, had nothing. You didn't want to push on it.
So the piece was really a comment on the time. We weren't breaking free in those days. I actually think that piece is more true than the one where we had to break.
We started burying the work in organic material, grass cuttings and leaves, to give it an organic
I realized
coloration.
that if you expand this notion of art, you know, including its context, then you can include the social.
It's something that nothing else I knew of did. It reflected, transmitted, and absorbed light at the same time. I started thinking of the energy inherent in the materials one works.
It allowed me, but not till I'd finished school, to connect the political side of myself with the artist.
Pretty much what my work has, you know, been recognized for is really the bringing together of painting and sculpture.
The first thing I did was put the torch right in the crotch, and it's beautiful.
I never even thought of art as a career. It's not even been clear to me whether or not I was actually an artist.
When I got to Irvine, I started doing pieces where I would put graphite on paper and just let the wind blow it so that graphite would assume its own form on the paper as it blew off.
I think it was Irwin who said, you know, you guys are younger peers, and, you know, you're the next generation. We're just going to see what you do. You know, you just have to carry things forward.
Started taking some art classes, and I got what in retrospect seems like almost an amazing amount of encouragement, considering how off the wall the work I was doing compared to what everybody else was doing.
And I painted a big target in the crotch. So it was pretty blatant. My stuff didn't take much figuring out.
What happened was my aunt gave me a stamp collection book. I had absolutely no interest in the stamp collection, but there was a little magnifying glass that was substantial, and it kept going from tool drawer to tool drawer as I went through life.
I knew that the work was changing. My history has been that it constantly changes.
I did these things where I would dig deep holes in the ground and then drop these neon tubes down in them, so as you looked across the ground there were these pods of light.
And then I decided to get rid of the painting completely and make the volumes that I was painting illusions of and use the glass material.
You know, most of my life I've been a fairly innocent and naive person because I never really thought about anything.
And then I poured resin all over the back so it would bleed out past the edges. And they'd bleed through irregularly.
Either a painting had to be small enough to be precious or it had to be large enough to be grand. So I went with the grand.
So there was this really intimate, softly generational, feminine thing that went on in creating this very bold, feminist statement.
Graphite on glass and then breaking it on the paper so it was doing a drawing without actually doing a drawing.
There was a new studio then. It had big open space.
Piece makes her uncomfortable because our intention was to have her break free, and she didn't.
It was discovering something that came about through the process rather than my creative mind. I like the idea I find things rather than make things.
Yeah.
So in the process of moving materials around, these things appear that I could never conceive of.
Glass was also very convenient. It was cheap, available anywhere, and you could do all kinds of stuff with it. And nobody else was playing with it.
Taping off the edges or taping off the shapes, and the process was very important to me because it was really kind of like a meditation.
And then I put the canvas after I put snap lines, drew lines on it, So the lines happen instantaneously.
I would wet everything, roll it up, and then let it ferment for about 2 weeks.
Trying to figure out what would catch my eye. What I said, I'd have no idea what I'm
There
going
was
to
a
make.
situation, there was an idea, there was a context, and I needed to address it. And the way that I knew how to address it was through art.
That's what art is. It's the ability to have an experience.
There was question, what else is possible?